5(2)(b) requires the Speaker to report to the House any petition other than those presented by a member. Further, Article 119 of the Constitution provides for the right of any person to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including petitioning the House to enact, amend, or repeal any legislation. In this regard, honourable members, I wish to report to the House that my office has received a petition from Mr. Patrick Kaberia of identity card number 223194888 calling for amendment to the Universities Act 2012 in order to provide for the engagement of alumni associations and other stakeholders in resuscitating, rejuvenating, and supporting public universities in Kenya. The petitioner, who introduces himself as the Executive Director of PAWA Africa, a civil society organization specializing in socioeconomic development and governance, bemoans what he terms as the sad state of public universities in the country. He highlights poor leadership, mismanagement, deteriorating debt levels, lack of inclusivity, lack of accountability, failure to comply with the gender and regional balance, and inadequate public participation as some of the ills facing these institutions of higher learning. In particular, he views the exclusion of alumni associations and other stakeholders in decision-making as a root cause of this ongoing concern, which has led to some universities to face near collapse, auction of university property, as well as public ridicule. He is thus convinced that involvement of alumni associations will go a long way in addressing the aforementioned challenges, as well as in securing support, national pride, prosperity, and global competitiveness of universities through the resultant improvement in quality standards and management. Consequently, honourable members, the petitioner seeks the intervention of this House in amending the Universities Act 2012 in order to, among other provisions, 1, replace the word may in section 42 of the Act with the word shall in order to compel universities to establish alumni associations, and 2, empower university alumni associations to nominate representatives to the respective university council, university senate, management board, committees, and other organs in addition to managing an endowment fund. Honourable members, having determined that the matters raised by the petitioner are well within the authority of this House, I order that pursuant to provision of Standing Order 2271, this petition be committed to the Public Petitions Committee. The committee is required to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and the petition in accordance with the Standing Order 2272. I thank you. I'll now give you, honourable members, 30 minutes to comment on both petitions, the one presented by the Honourable Atandi and this one from Mr. Patrick Kaberia. Wanda. As usual, the screen is full. I encourage those who want to comment on the petitions to go to interventions.
Mr. Speaker, I just have an issue that I seek your guidance on. I have an issue, Mr. Speaker, relating to petitions on which I seek your guidance. Mr. Speaker, there is a gentleman by the name Shem Otieno Dianga of ID card number 277-81888, who has indicated to me that he sent a petition. Indeed, he sent 3 petitions to this House, petitions dated 17th October 2022, which petitions were duly received by the National Assembly Main Records Unit on the 25th October 2022. And these petitions these three petitions were seeking then, I still believe they are still seeking, the removal from office of the chairperson of the IEBC, Mr. Wafula Chebukati, and commissioners Boya Molu and Abdi Gulie. Mr. Speaker, this petitioner is wondering why his petitions have not been acted upon. But to the best of my recollection, no such petitions have been presented on the floor of this House. So I'm seeking your guidance, Mr. Speaker. What could have happened if indeed these petitions reached Parliament? They might not have reached your office, perhaps. Is it possible that these petitions are lying somewhere within the precincts of Parliament? And could you therefore direct that they be presented before the House, for the House to act on them accordingly, Mr. Speaker? Accordingly. Because, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this in view of the fact that yesterday we did have certain petitions presented before this House concerning a certain set of commissioners of the same IBC. For us to be seen as a House which observes and upholds the rule of law and the principle of justice, equity, and fairness, we need to quickly get to understand the whereabouts of these petitions and be made to act on them expeditiously, Mr. Speaker. If you could guide, I will be most grateful. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Wandai. First, I have not seen them yet. Secondly, are you saying that 3 petitions from one petitioner or one petition regarding 3 commissioners?
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, there are 3 petitions from one petitioner.
Okay.
Yes.
Clerk,
Mr. Speaker.
The clerk will look out their records and then bring to my attention. Honorable Yusuf Hassan, I believe you have logged in to speak to the petitions. 2 minutes each, honorable members. Give Honorable Yusuf the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to contribute to the petition brought by Mr. Patrick Kaberia regarding the proposal to amend our Universities Act to include the important role of the alumni. And I would say that our universities are in a terminal crisis, particularly the public universities. And he has rightfully said they are facing serious problems of funding, and they're underperforming. And there is a need to inject new ideas and new funding to be able to keep these universities going. I therefore think that it is important for these universities, and universities all around the world benefit from their alumni, their former students. My former universities are constantly writing me letters demanding support and funding, which I'm happy to give because of the contribution they have made to my own education and my own life. And so I have no doubt that a university like the University of Nairobi, which is one of the biggest and the most successful of the universities in Eastern Africa, can benefit from its alumni and can get enormous contribution in terms of funding as well as ideas into those universities that have that benefit of having alumni students. So I think his ideas are constructive and they should be welcome, and his petition should be considered seriously by the relevant committee that it will be forwarded to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support his petition.
Honorable Hassan. Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to comment on the petition presented by Honorable Atandi on behalf of the investors. Honorable Speaker, for many years, the country, the capital market, has struggled with avenues to raise capital for investment. Of late, there has been a plethora of such instruments, corporate bonds, corporate papers, and more so, investing in high-yielding funds. Honorable Speaker, the case of Saiton is a very heartbreaking case. Very noble idea, either poorly managed or invested at the wrong time. The time when the real estate market was on the downturn trend, and we do believe and hope that there must be a solution that's going to be found. Honorable Speaker, to put it very clearly, I wouldn't call this a matter of obtaining money by false pretense. This was a contract, an investment contract, just like you can put money in a bank and the bank sinks with the money. I do believe with the passage of time and the economy improving, things could be better. But I sincerely believe all those who purport to raise such kind of a way must put risk management measures to avoid loss of funds for the people of Kenya. This is a timely petition, and I do hope the Public Petitions Committee will do justice and resolve this matter once and for all. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Dr. Robert Bukose, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sorry, I want to support the petition by Honorable Atandi on the investments, sorry, on the investments that people had invested in Saiton. And it's very unfortunate. I was also thinking in lines of why the investigative agencies could not move in time and be able to save these people their resources. Because when people invest in such investments, it's a lifetime investment. And therefore, it is a big loss to those people waiting for their money so that it can either give profit at 18% or be able to invest in other areas. So I think this is something that the committee should look at it expeditiously, because since 2019 up to now, I think those people are waiting for their justice. On the second petition on the universities, council on the universities, it's on the University Act 2012, it's a very unfortunate scenario, Honorable Speaker, that we are witnessing in our country, that public universities are being run down. And I think it's a petition that is timely so that we can be able to stop the tide for the universities towards sinking. Because when universities you are collapsing all over the country, then there is something very wrong that we think needs to be remedied. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Otienda Amolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first to comment on what the Honorable Pio and I was speaking to. Mr. Speaker, it's extremely important that in this House, we be seen as a house of equity and equitability, which means, Mr. Speaker, that there must be a mechanism by which any person, and especially you, Mr. Speaker, traces the petitions that are presented to this House without having to depend on the goodwill of the office of the clerk or any other office. And I suggest, Mr. Speaker, that you might put in systems that even members can see the petitions, therefore they do not have to repeat petitions that have been presented. On the petition read by Honorable Atandi, as I understand it, Mr. Speaker, it is a private contract issue. But the main theme and thrust of his petition is the failure by the public regulatory authority to regulate. And this is something that has happened in this country many times with insurance companies, with banks, and now with investment companies. And so even as he properly advises his constituents, Mr. Speaker, I urge that you still commit it to the appropriate committee to consider the failure of regulatory authorities. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the petition to involve, alumni associations, Mr. Speaker, you and I, and many of us here, went to the University of Nairobi. If we started counting the number of people who have gone through that university, they'll rank in their millions. Inherent in that petition is the assumption that alumni associations are run independently, they are run competently, and that they consult us. I don't know which member here is often consulted by our alumni association. I think that that would be putting an undue burden on the universities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Lillian Kogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this afternoon opportunity to add my voice to the petitions on the floor of the House. I want to speak to the petition that has been raised by the Honorable Atandi, my MP, my mother's MP. It's really very unfortunate that Kenyans endeavor and work very hard to have investments in various systems, but unfortunately, we also have schemers, Honorable Speaker, who target the money that Kenyans hardly work for and earn and want to invest, and some of them choreograph to run away with this money. It is important, Honorable Speaker, that this petition is committed to the right petition in the floor of the, through your office, the committee, so that this matter is looked at seriously and Kenyans are saved their hard-earned earnings and they get back their investments. Two, on matters alumni participating in the various management systems or universities, I rise to support that petition because nobody would want to see the school through which they went that made them who they are collapse. And if we put people who went through those universities, I got my 3 degrees from Egerton University, I'm getting a 4th one from the University of Nairobi. I would want to see these universities last forever and other people also benefit from the training that I've gotten from these universities. It's important that alumni are involved in the activities of the universities, and we need to protect our universities, Honorable Speaker. Our universities are collapsing, and as a house, we need to come up strong as leaders and as legislators to protect our universities. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to add my voice to these 2 petitions. Number one, Mr. Speaker, is a petition on the issue of land, issue of properties by the stated company, Mr. Speaker, which I think there has been that problem in the country, Mr. Speaker, where most of the companies, especially these building companies, build houses and start selling before even they raise from the ground, Mr. Speaker. And along the way, the company collapses. And there is no surety that the money which has been spent or the money which those people have paid is returned. So I think a law should be put in place, and this one is for us, members of this House, that anybody who wants to sell before proper construction must have a collateral, must give a collateral to the buyer that in case that particular company collapses, whatever will be sold. On the second petition, Mr. Speaker, on the universities, just like what my colleagues have said, most of the universities are almost collapsing, Mr. Speaker, and these are universities which are being paid, which are taking a lot of money from even students who are doing parallel courses. You can't imagine a student who is paying 200,000 a year, and we have a variety of students around 5,000 paying the same amount, but the universities are struggling. They are still not performing well. I think we should include the proposal of alumni in the management of the university so that they can ensure universities work so well. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Marwa Kitayama. Is your microphone working?
It is working.
It is on, but it's not working.
All right. Sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this one is too short also. All right, now we are at the same level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the statement by the petition that as read by Mr. Honorable Atandi. Mr. Speaker, Saiton is just a small example of what is going on in this country, especially in the built environment space. Mr. Speaker, there are so many families that are breaking because they put together investments, they put together their monies so that they can settle their families in decent homes. But what goes on is that people get conned, and they are big, Mr. Speaker, because they control a lot of money. After collecting a lot of money, they are untouchable. So it is out of desperation, Mr. Speaker, that petitioner has approached his member of parliament. And I want to thank you, Honorable Atandi, for taking the bold step to come out and speak for so many out there. Mr. Speaker, you may have heard of another company called Diamond Properties. Diamond Properties, Mr. Speaker, conned so many people, and they targeted the low income. And they are using radio FM stations who are popular, who drag people into this con game, and of course they get away with it because they have a way of manipulating the justice system. Mr. Speaker, I think it is timely that this goes to the right committee. Let us prosecute it, even if this matter is being handled in another area. There is an element, there is something that is making these people get away with it, and that is what this House needs to support so that we arrest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Gladys Boss. David Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to weigh in my voice on the matters, on the petitions that are presented before this House. First, I'd like to comment on the petition, the reference to a petition that had been brought to the House that was made by Honorable Wandanyi, who is the minority leader, where he says there was a petition that was brought but has not been brought before the House. I think I would request that he be asked to provide the copy of the petition, duly stamped, received, with an actual date and time, with a corresponding delivery book if there is, so that we can put this matter to rest and to know that to which office it came to, so that we don't have aspersions being cast on the staff members of Parliament. Two, Honorable Speaker, I would like to speak to the petition relating to the involvement of alumni of University of Nairobi and other universities. I support this petition. However, I'd like to put a rider that I implore Parliament to have a more holistic approach to it, because we know what ails our universities. It's not the fact that there isn't involvement by our alumni, but more because, one, we know that those universities went into over-expansion to various satellite universities which were not sustainable or not well thought through. For example, when the University of Nairobi decided to expand, they used their capital to set up new satellite universities, satellite colleges. They even gave those universities assets. They got involved in the construction of those buildings. And then those universities got a charter, and they lost that capital and lost the assets. In other places, they expanded. I know the law school.
The time is up, boss. Can you give the Deputy Speaker 1 minute to finish?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, it was an uncontrolled expansion. Secondly, we also know that the Ministry of Education at some point decided that they would give most of the money coming in from the fund of the higher education to private universities, to the exclusion of public universities. That is what has made our universities collapse. That must be addressed, not just the alumni issue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Emmanuel Wangwe. Give to the Honorable Wangwe the microphone. Use the one that...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just wish to comment on two petitions, the one by Honorable Atandi and that one on education, Honorable Speaker. About that of Honorable Atandi, I wish maybe, Honorable Speaker, to urge the committee that you will entrust with that petition, not only to enclose itself on what Honorable Atandi has said, as requested, but also go beyond and look at the origin of the issues touching on Kenyans losing money, commonly known as the pyramid schemes. The origin of this issue began with the pyramid schemes, where Kenyans lost a lot of money. So if we can treat the disease from that time, it will be easy for the regulatory authorities, Honorable Speaker, at least to give proper guidance in terms of how to manage future investments. Honorable Speaker, about the petition on education, it is my issue that we request the committee that will look into the petition to be cautious. We have two institutions in every university, that's the University Council and the University Senate. Honorable Speaker, if at all we allow alumni to mingle with the issues to do with University Senate, is likely to compromise the output of the product that we have in universities. But if at all we'll allow the alumni to maybe support the University Council in terms of management of resources and sourcing for more resources to run the university, that might work. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support the two petitions, and we look forward to seeing the report back in the House, and we'll see how to contribute. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to comment on these two petitions. Firstly, that presented by Honorable Atandi. On the face of it, this looks like a gross fraud that actually the investigative authorities should have dig deeper and brought culprits before a court of law. But on the other hand, it appears this issue is widespread, that many Kenyans have lost their hard-earned savings for a very long time, that this thing must be brought to an end. And I think this is why the work of Parliament is really necessary. On the issue of petition on universities, I think our public universities are no longer universities of first choice because they are underfunded. There's problem of leadership. And also, young Kenyans are reluctant to go to public universities because they are not able to finish their studies in the appropriate time. So for that reason, what the petitioner is really asking is, can you Kenyans who have benefited from this institution come forward and help out? I think Parliament is best placed because this is where we allocate resources. And we must see, do we need to allocate more resources or we address leadership of this institution? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Russell, Ferdinand Wanyonyi, you'll be the second last.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the chance, and I just want to make a comment on the university. I think sent by Mr. Patrick somebody, I heard, and I want to include the alumni in the council and Senate in the public university. I quite agree with him because looking at what is happening today, the Speaker, you agree with me and everybody else will agree with me that the running of these institutions, I think is just, it's like there's not something very clear what is happening. You have this Higher Education Loans Board, which these members pay through their CDF, what have you, and on top of that, again, the CDF, and I can tell you, we have a problem because of lack of direction. So we get some of the old members here who have been in some of the schools, like the University of Nairobi, where I'm alumni, and many other people here. I think things will change. And therefore, I support that petition. And I think let's go ahead and have members who have been in these universities joining the council to be able to assist in directing the activities in these particular universities, particularly Nairobi University, where I went. Things are very, very different. You look at what is happening, you can't believe. So I support Patrick. Let's do something about us joining, those who are here, joining. If you ask to go to join the Senate, please do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The last, yes, one I see. On a point of order, on this matter, yes. What is out of order? Can you give the Honorable Minority Leader microphone?
Mr. Speaker, following my earlier comments, I wish to table the petitions that I had alluded to much earlier in my comments.
Honorable Andai,
yes,
you are out of order. Those petitions are not on the floor.
But
if
she has challenged me.
She was contributing. She didn't ask you to table.
She asked me to provide evidence.
She said you had not shown any evidence.
And I have them here now.
If you have evidence,
yes,
take them to the clerk.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Take them to the clerk. I'll give the last opportunity to Mr. Joseph, Honorable Joseph Cheriot from Kipkelion. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, this is better now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raised to support the Nini by Honorable Tandy concerning Saiton. Mr. Speaker, there are several companies which have started actually doing business with the public without considering their welfare, and Saiton is one of them, Mr. Speaker. There has been a lot of complaints, and for this to be discouraged, Mr. Speaker, the best way to go is to give them blackout, because they use the radio or the media. They also use even spaces in towns to market themselves, and this is like giving them the legal way to do things, Mr. Speaker. Diligence also has to be done to such companies to know whether they have the capacity to run such business or to construct houses, Mr. Speaker. By doing this, Mr. Speaker, I think we are saving Kenyans so that they are not going to be drained financially. And as we've heard, Mr. Speaker, this has caused a lot of havoc to families, and many families have actually broken because of that, Mr. Speaker. For that reason, I support the question from Mr. Azandi, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Allow me to acknowledge Thika Road Primary School, Roysambu,